Welcome to the Kickstart My Franchise podcast. I'm your host, Tim Michaels. Today's guest has a very interesting background. He is a former D1 football player, a master certified personal trainer, and the co-founder and CEO of an exciting brand called Send Me a Pro. I'm very excited to have Bary El-Yacoubi join the show. How you doing, Bary?
Doing good. Thank you for having me, Tim.
Awesome. Well, before I get started on your franchise, I read that as a teenager, you used to do street performances. So I'm curious what exactly that entailed.
Yeah. So as a kid, I got a job at Subway in Boulder, Colorado. And the owner actually hired me just to open the door and just kind of pass out flyers. They're like a family friend. And then while I was doing that, I was walking around Pearl Street Mall and I saw these street performers doing shows, and they would juggle, they would do magic tricks, they would do, a lot of unique things. And after the show, people would go and tip them. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, someone's, they're doing some type of, juggling. And after 20 minutes, people were running to tip them. I was like, I'm in the wrong business. So I said, I need to learn something. And I started to learn magic tricks. And, ironically, I became good friends with one of the magicians there. And it was funny because the Subway that I worked at, they actually put me in a mascot. So I was walking around as a giant sub, the mall, outdoor mall in Boulder. And I was just watching all the shows in the mascot costume.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. So it was good because I learned how to do a lot of magic tricks, and I got a great mentor who taught me the tricks. And long story short, I ended up becoming, doing my own show, and I was making really good money. I never had to do a summer job again because it just didn't make sense. I was making so much as a street performer. I was like, why would I go work at a summer job?
Yeah. No, I mean, did that kickstart your entrepreneurial journey, it sounds like?
100%, and that's where it's one of those things, you reap what you sow and what you put into something. And, at first as a magician and building up an audience, and most importantly, learning how to ask your audience on how to tip you well. That's the secret. It's like a waiter or a waitress, right? The secret is how to now get your table to tip you well. And I learned that during that experience on how to now make the audience laugh, how to really ask for a good tip. And over the years, it got better and better and better at it. And it all came together. And it was, one of the greatest experiences I've ever, went through growing up, for sure.
It's fantastic. Sounds like we could do a whole nother podcast just on that. So say that for another day. But, to come back to Send Me a Pro, maybe you could just describe for us, like, what exactly is this opportunity for people?
Yeah. So Send Me a Pro, we're, a convenient solution for the homeowner for really managing all the things that they're looking for. So think of house cleaning, lawn care, pressure washing, tutoring, music lessons, personal trainers, handyman services. So it's almost like a home manager for the home. So the customer doesn't need to waste time haggling and price shopping. So it's like a concierge service for the homeowner.
Got it. Fantastic. And when did you guys begin franchising?
So we started franchising in 2020, really at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020 is kind of when we really started. And we started off as actually in-home personal training, which was our original business model, was the fitness side of it. And then, about a year ago or so, we launched Send Me a Pro. We enhanced. So in 2020, we started with Send Me a Trainer. And that was like the Uber for personal trainers. And we actually, just to take a few steps back, we started the original business back in 2007 as an in-home personal training business. And we ran that for a decade. And over the years, we learned a lot. We learned that a lot of clients, they valued convenience, and, they really value, the fact that someone could come to them, and that, we'll give our customers access to great local pros, and trainers, and from trainers to all the way to tennis coaches, golf coaches, yoga instructors. And then our customers start to ask us, do you know a handyman? Do you know a painter? Do you know someone to babysit my kids? Right. And we start to hear that over the years and the years and years, and one thing just led to the other.
That's fantastic. In terms of, it sounds like you started in 2020. How fast have you guys been growing? How big are you now?
Yeah, so we are now we're getting close to about 200 territories. And we're global. We have franchise owners in the UK, Canada, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and just recently Saudi Arabia. And we're also coast to coast. We're up and down the East Coast. We're sprinkled in the Midwest, and we're also growing very quickly on the West Side as well.
Awesome. So how do franchisees actually make money with this? Walk us through a transaction and how that works.
Yeah, just like think about any other home service franchise. How do they make money, right? The franchise owner typically will hire the team of their fulfillment partners or put a team together. So we call them our pros. So as a franchise owner, you're going to have your pros, and you're going to have fixed rates with those fixed pricing for those pros. So we pay them, we negotiate pricing with our pros, and then our customer has the cost to the customer. And the franchisee makes the difference between how much you pay your pro and what your client is actually, what you're charging your clients.
Got it. Okay. Relatively straightforward. In terms of, you mentioned some of the different services, but it sounds like as a franchisee, I can start off with 2 or 3 and grow from there. Is that how it works? Or
that's exactly right. So we typically recommend pick 1 to 2 and maybe 3 services to kind of stick the flag in and get hyper focus and launch those key services. And as you get traction, then you can continue to add more services as you grow and scale.
Got it. One thing I've heard from some people I've talked to is, why would I use this service instead of going on Yelp or Angie's List or some sort of similar site? What would you say to those people?
Yeah. And there's a segment for people that really enjoy the haggling, the price shopping. And that's kind of like out of the segment that we're in, the space that we're in is a lot of our clients, they've used all the Yelps, they use the, Thumbtacks, the Angie's List. And what we've learned over the decades since they've launched these platforms is the problem that we're solving is that we're eliminating a step that it takes to get your pro. So rather than getting quotes and price shopping, that's an extra step. And what we do is we have standard pricing, and no more getting quotes, no more haggling, no more price shopping, no more comparing this person and that person. We have access to top pros, standard rates, and a very simple, easy booking process. And that's kind of the client that we're going after, is they want fair rates and they want the job to get done sooner than later. And they don't have time to haggle and to price shop and compare quotes and to go through all that. And that's the problem that we're solving for the user.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. As far as actually acquiring that customer, what does that typically look like? Is it through networking, Google and Facebook ads? What is the traditional sort of way of doing this?
Yeah. So we do a few things. We do online marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram, right? Social media platforms, right? So let's call that digital marketing. And then the other side of it is grassroots business development. And we like to partner up with HOA communities that already have access to all the homeowners. And we'll approach the HOA and we'll offer exclusive pricing to everyone who lives in their community in exchange for an email blast and also joining their Facebook groups. Right. So things like that, like grassroots, we partner up with HOA communities, apartment complex, senior care facilities. We like to participate in the local 5K races, back to school night, set up a table. So really getting active in your local community, and getting involved. And, we give our franchisees the blueprints on how to do that. But we found that to be very beneficial for sure.
And who is sort of your ideal franchisee, or those that you've seen be most successful?
Great question. Is if I always go back to it goes, put our franchise aside in general, right? What makes a good franchise owner? What's the difference between if you look at all the franchise systems out there, what's the difference between the top 20% and the bottom 20%? What's the difference? And usually the top 20%, they're focused, they're disciplined, they trust the process, right? Well, the bottom 20% oftentimes tends to be brand new business owners, which is fine. But the risk factor is they have all these million ideas that are outside of the playbook. And then they want to act on all those ideas. And then they kind of take action. They deviate from the playbook. So at a high level in any franchise system, right, is the top 20 and the bottom 20 is the difference is the ability to trust the system, trust the process, and stay focused and execute.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense and definitely is consistent across franchise brands, like you said. As far as, the different ownership models here, can this be run on a semi-absentee basis, or is this just owner-operator?
Yeah, both. And there's a few ways of different ways to go about it. But yeah, you could be the investor where you kind of hire someone now who's going to take lead on the local business development and overseeing your pros and managing your pros. Or you could we have some franchise owners that do this full time. We have some franchise owners that have a full time job and they do this on the side. We have some franchise owners that are just investors. So there's different approaches on how to run the business depending on the investor and the approach of how they want to, go about things. But we do have a few different options.
Got it. And what would you say is a typical day, if there is such a thing, in let's call it the life of an owner operator?
Yeah. So in the beginning, you're really focusing on establishing your relationships with your pros. So once you pick your services that you're going to offer, establish those relationships with your local pros and create profiles, onboard them, we run background checks, we vet them. And that's kind of like in the beginning. And then that's kind of more like a one-time sprint that we kind of get hyper-focused. And then eventually you continue to recruit to the platform slowly. And then it shifts to now focusing on establishing these relationships locally with the HOA communities, the senior care facilities, even local businesses. They need services for their maintenance, someone to come and to clean and to do different types of, handyman type of services or whatever it may be. So we like to establish relationships with these B2B relationships that really go a long way.
Fantastic. What is the total investment that's required to get this really off the ground?
So total investment for one territory is $50,000. The breakdown of the $50,000 is the franchise fee. From that is $35,000, and that will cover a territory up to 50,000 people. The remaining $15,000, that's going to stay with you. And that's going to now go towards working capital to fund you in the early months. Typically, it's going to go towards your marketing and the expenses of the business until you break even.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, if you look at other home service, type brands, I think most of them you're going to see on the low end, typically around 100,000 up to like 150-ish thousand just for one territory. So I like that lower, cost of entry. It's definitely appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah. And we also have an area rep model that has gotten a lot of traction. We just launched that a couple of months ago, and everyone that we've awarded has really gone with the area rep. And basically the area rep for nearly around the same cost of 2 to 3 territories. Now you'll get your territories that you can run, your 2 to 3 territories, but the benefit is we're going to take 10 territories off the market. And you run your territories, but the remaining 7 territories or so, you could subsell. And now you can earn an 80% of the franchise fee. And we also share the royalties with you. So now we're introducing a whole new revenue stream for the franchise owner to now really add a new income stream that can quickly get, if you sell a couple of franchises, a couple of deals, you're going to already make your money back from your original investment just by doing that.
And what is the total cost again for that?
So it starts at 70.
70
For 10 territories. It's in that range, but also we have to look at the way the landscape typically works out. Like in a place like New York City, 10 territories could be very clustered. So we also go through an exercise based off kind of the way the landscape kind of plays out on what can we cluster as one umbrella for a area rep to now operate a portion of that and then start to subsell as well. Or some area reps may want to now operate the entire area, and they can also do that. And there's a plan on how they can do that as well.
Interesting. Very cool. In terms of the sort of top 2 or 3 reasons, if you were to pitch this to somebody, like why they should consider becoming a franchisee, what would you say?
Great question. So number one, the people that are buying this franchise, they already believe in home services. Like I tell people, if I have to convince you of home services, it's just you're too far in the beginning that you're never going to get to the finish line. So the people that are buying this franchise, they come here and they say, hey, Bary, I almost bought a house cleaning franchise. I almost bought a window cleaning franchise or a pressure washing franchise or whatever it may be. The list goes on. And I was thinking to myself, hey, I'm about to buy that franchise. And then all of a sudden, on the 11th hour, I saw Send Me a Pro. And I realized that I could still do that exact same service that I was going to invest in, but now on this platform, and now mitigate my risks by diversifying my services and also adding more revenue within a territory beyond just one service. So the opportunity that we're providing our franchisees, you're not buying one franchise. And you know this, Tim. Usually every single service that we're offering is a standalone franchise.
Absolutely.
Right? So talk about risk mitigation, why people buy a franchise in the first place is because it's less risky than starting from scratch. You're buying a proven model, a system. Right?
Absolutely.
So to take that a step further, why we're getting the traction that we're getting is because you're not buying one franchise. You're buying a portfolio of proven franchise concepts under one umbrella. And the mission is to own the relationship with the homeowner. We're no different than any other home service franchise for the first service. The way we're different is after you deliver that first service, now our business model just began. Where you can offer, hey, Tim, by the way, how was the house cleaning today? Oh, it was great. Perfect. Hey, by the way, we also do lawn care, landscaping, pressure washing, windows, cleaning, gutters, handyman. What else can I get done for you today? That's the opportunity. That's the opportunity. And that's where we say where we fit in. We're no different than any other franchise out there for the first service. After, that's our business model.
Super intriguing. Thank you for walking us through that. That was all the questions I had. So I'll give you sort of the final word. Is there anything else you wanted to cover or make sure that you get across to people who are listening?
Yeah. We're growing quickly. And the most important thing for us is we're always looking for the right fit. Like we don't sell franchises. We want to make sure it's a good fit for you and good fit for us. And ultimately people that, can trust the process and stay focused. And that's important to us as well. But yeah, this is a great opportunity. And we look forward to kind of continue to explore this with many people.
Fantastic. Appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can send you some people here who will become franchisees shortly.
Absolutely. Thanks for your support, Tim.
Take care.